Well, let's go to the second segment here. This is about Wisconsin. Tony Evers, their governor, very woke governor. This is a very interesting scenario. We're going to have Andy Parrish, who's a contributor at WIZM out of LaCrosse, weigh in on this thing because he's actually doing radio in Wisconsin. But let's first go to, let's see, what is this? WPDE? What is that? Is that what's an affiliate somewhere? ABC 15 News. There you go. ABC 15 News. This is why the hell does the article say by Ben Crumpholtz of Fox 11 News? I have no idea. And it's on WPDE. Well, I'm not going to pretend like I know every...
lots of news stations, they just run another article from someone else.
They're competing like Fox one? I don't know.
Yeah.
This is...
yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's from Wausau, all right? Well, this one says WLUK. I don't know. I don't know. I can pretend I know every Wisconsin media market. Go ahead and play this video, Dawson.
Tonight at 9, a war of words tonight as Governor Tony Evers is standing by his proposal to swap out the word mother for inseminated person in state law.
Yeah, the change has made national headlines and has been the subject of criticism from Republicans. Fox 11's Ben Crumpholtz brings us balanced news coverage.
Republicans locally and across the country have been railing on Governor Tony Evers' desire to make some parts of state law gender neutral. Elon Musk calling it messed up, and Brett Favre saying it's nonsense.
In all my time in and around politics, this is probably the dumbest proposal that I've seen. I think it's incredibly offensive to women, to mothers.
Republican State Senator Andre Jacques is talking about Evers' proposed changes to a section of state law about artificial insemination. Husband, man, mother, and father would be replaced with terms like person, spouse, and inseminated person.
If I called my mother an inseminated person, she'd probably slap me with good reason.
What the Republicans say is a lie, so of course I'm pretty PO'd about that.
After attending a roundtable in Wausau, Evers told Fox 11 he stands by his proposal, which was included as part of his 1,900-page state budget bill. He believes Republicans are misconstruing his attempt at helping families who use in vitro fertilization for their own political gain.
All we want is to make sure that moms and dads have the legal, things have been taken care of legally so that moms can have a year of service from an OBGYN. End of story.
Is the change needed for something like that, as he
Not
explains?
at all. I've never heard that explanation. That has never been presented. And did he actually call them mothers when he said that? Because if he understands the term as easily as you and I do now, there certainly would be no call for him to change it in the statutes.
Evers wants to change other parts of state law as well. One state Republican lawmaker counting at least 30 times mother is replaced with a gender-neutral term, father subbed out more than 120 times. Evers says he'd be willing to present his changes in a separate bill. Republicans say they won't be considered as is. Ben Crumpholtz,
Okay.
Fox 11 News.
So, Jesse, I think this is actually a case of the woke right getting some things wrong and a lying Democrat governor. Let's get that Rumble rant before bringing in Andy.
We got JL Jazz, $5 Rumble rant says, "Hey, Jake, did you get my gift? It arrived at the A4L headquarters a few weeks ago. I hope it looks good in the room it is meant for."
Jen, yes, I did, and we'll see you on Thursday. I assume you're coming to the Founders Club. All right. Andy, contributor at WIZM, welcome back to the show, my good buddy.
Hey, how are you, Jake? Remember
bad.
when we used to joke about this kind of stuff when we were in college 20-some years ago? We used to joke about this, and now it's happening.
Did we even conjure this up in our heads at that point?
Yeah, that's why we left United Council. Remember, we launched that campaign against United Council because they had the gender-neutral bathrooms on campus. And, but if you want to talk about, I'm going to do a man on the street gig for my podcast, and I'm going to go down to UWL, and I'm going to read some of those statements that you heard, and I'm going to say which politician said this, and I'm going to list off Donald Trump, George Bush, and then I'm going to go to Tony Evers and see how many people actually say it. Because if you want to talk about one of the most misogynist, I don't even know how the hell you say it.
Misogynist?
Misogynist, there you go. One of the most misogynist things that a politician can do, it's to remove the title mother and father from somebody, but specifically mother, when exactly 0 people asked for this. And it's part of this. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so this is my issue. that's not what he's doing. So he's not wrong that the Republicans are lying. We looked this up. But he's also disguising his hidden agenda. He actually is lying about, oh, this is just to make sure that they get certain rights. So let's actually show you what you're going to do. And Andy, I'm guessing you probably haven't seen this yet. It's actually pretty interesting stuff. It's tackling IVF treatment, which is the hot button topic. By the way, Trump already expanding it at the national level, right? Was that an executive order? It must have been an executive order that he signed.
Yeah, but Jake, an inseminated person is still a mother, right? They're still carrying that child, and they're still giving birth to that child.
I know.
I don't buy that.
I agree. But that state senator from Wisconsin is making it sound like he's trying to remove the term mother from all government operations. It's specifically going to a certain section, and there's a reason it's that section. This is the actual bill, the proposal. This is under a Senate file right now in Wisconsin. It's Senate Bill 45. Sorry, Wisconsin's not Senate file. It's Senate Bill 45, page 1766. So it's touching state statute 891, and this is specifically section 40 or 891.40, which is referring to IVF. Okay, and now I'm just going to read this first one. I'm going to tell you what I think is going on. Dawson, it's towards the bottom there. Just like in Minnesota, what they'll do is when they're getting the language, they're removing the language that's already in law, they're striking it out, and when they're adding it, it's underlined. So what it would initially say, if under the supervision of a licensed physician and with the consent of her husband, a wife is inseminated artificially with semen donated by men. Okay, so now they're getting rid of those gender pronouns there, and it's going, if with the spouse's consent, a person is inseminated artificially as provided in paragraph B with semen donated by a person who is not the spouse of the person being inseminated, the spouse of the inseminated person at the time of the conception of the child shall be the natural parent of a child conceived. The crossing out husband, the spouse's consent must be in writing and signed by him or her added, and crossing out the wife by the inseminated person. Okay, now clearly they are changing law to remove the term wife here or mother and put inseminated person, and to remove father or a father with a parent, husband with a spouse. Okay?
They messed it up.
Now, what? Of course they would mess it up.
Right here.
Dude, it's so hard to keep track of this. Now, why are you doing this? Here's the question. Why are you doing this? Tony Evers. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Andy.
Jake, we're you got to remember too, in Wisconsin, we're sitting on a $4.9 billion or $4.6 billion budget surplus and a $1.9 billion rainy day fund, and so we're sitting on a close to $6.5 billion on surplus money, and this is just a distraction, I think, from the real issue of give the money back. And so Tony has drawn Republicans out for a fight, and now the fight is over gender pronouns and not really about giving the surplus back or what to do with the surplus. And so it's never going to pass. Look, the way it works here, the governor makes a budget proposal. It goes to a joint finance committee in the House and the Senate. And then once they kick it out, it goes to both houses, and then it's got to pass. And so this is nothing, I think, but a distraction, a stupid one at that.
I don't think so, Andy, because I think what's going on is this is accounting for the new thing that's going on. And I say new in the sense that, I mean, it's no longer a decade old, okay? My sister's got a story about this, by the way, Andy. You'll appreciate this because she was in a, what would you call it, a birthing wing of a hospital.
Yeah, she's an OB nurse. Yeah,
she was.
Nurse.
No, she was.
Thanks, Jake. I'll tell people what your sister is. Yep.
Okay. One of my sisters.
I got you, Jenny.
Yeah. So this idea that a man can give birth, right? Because if you think about this, what they're doing is they're removing the gender-specific stuff,
right?
For something my sister got counseling. I'm not saying counseling because of like a response to something she did. I hope she doesn't mind me sharing the story. It's too late now, I guess. But they were proactively telling nursing staff at the time, and I think this was got to be like 6 years ago, that there is a trans person, so someone that's a woman but identifying as a man, who is literally going to give birth.
So,
Andy, how many
I
men can give birth, by the way?
0. And
Okay,
I think
there you
there's
go.
there's a couple of things happening here that when you bring it up that way, Jake, that I do believe need to be addressed. So according to the UCLA Law School or School of Law, they're 0.6% of the country identifies as transgender. And I have no doubt in my mind that in their mind, they do believe that they are an opposite gender of what their body tells them they are.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not what they think they are. You know, we have thousands of years and millions of scientists and everyone else who've all concluded that there's an X chromosome and an XY. And so you have the left now kind of pushing this radical agenda on us for 0.6% of the people. And you're taking away, whether he likes it or not, the reality is once that becomes law, then the state's going to start using the term inseminated person and, you know, getting rid of mother and father. That's the way it is. You know, if you think about it too, Jake, I mean, think about all the forms. You were in the military. You did a ton of administrative work. Think of all the forms that the state is going to have to change at this point and the financial repercussions on that. It's stupid. It needs to come out. And people need to stop pushing this agenda on us for 0.6% of the country. It's becoming ridiculous. I was doing some research on this earlier this morning, and a new term came up for me now that the left is using. It's called minor attracted person.
Oh, we've talked about that on this show.
And you know
It's
what?
a big deal.
It is getting to the point where people have just got to say, stop it. This is over the top. I understand that you're probably struggling with your gender identity, but now we're talking about changing the title. I mean, any mother who goes in to get inseminated, Jake, wants to be called a mother. They want to become a mom. You know, this reminds me so much. If you go back to our high school days, really, I mean, what Tony is calling these people, and I'm not going to say it on your show, but what's the difference between he's dehumanizing women to the point where the best they are is inseminated people.
No, but see, I don't think he's going that far, but
he is going that far. That's exactly what he's doing.
Hold on. I don't think he is, but I don't think you're wrong in this because it starts with this to be. So the idea I think behind this is to be, because I think he wants to be inclusive to the new transgendered people.
0.6% of the
even
country,
like lesbians.
25,000 Wisconsinites.
What's that?
Right, but even lesbians, you know, the current statute wouldn't have been able to cover them because it says husband, and obviously there's no husband.
Correct.
In a
That's the other
marriage.
one.
Because
He's
they aren't
right
the
on that.
father, Jesse. If
No,
they're
but that's
lesbian,
what. Okay. So now I'm going to read this again to you. This
you
is
have
just the
one
first one.
mother. That's it.
They tackle many parts of this statute, 891.40.
Right, there's only one mother, but there's only one inseminated person.
So think about this again, as Jesse just alluded
the mother.
to. I know.
Yeah.
Think of this as you're a transgender man who is giving birth. So you're really a woman, but you're pretending to be a man, and you're giving birth to a child. And think of this as two women. Okay. Now I'm going to read this again to you. Right. If with the spouse's consent, remove husband, a person, cross out wife, is inseminated artificially with semen donated by cross out man, person who is not, cross out her husband, the spouse of the person being inseminated, the cross out husband, spouse of the cross out mother, inseminated person at the time of the conception of the child shall be the natural cross out father, parent of a child conceived. Do you see how this encompasses, it's inclusive to the transgender man who's giving birth? So, and then also bringing in the lesbians. Of course, men can't be part of this because if it's two gay guys, clearly they clearly can't give birth, right? That's not possible.
What's the new thing now that they're saying for gay men that adopt? It's not breastfeeding, it's chest feeding. I mean, there's got to come a point where we've just got to say, all right, this has gone too far.
Right.
And this is,
okay, but this is where you might be right,
situations.
Andy. This is where you might be right. So I think it starts, and by the way, Tony Evers is just straight up lying to the media here. Like, that's what this is about. Like, is this even debatable? That's what this is about. So he's lying about that, but it starts with inclusivity with these 0.6% of the population, if it's even that. And then what it's going to do is then they're going to argue, well, now there's a stigma against it, so we should neutralize that term all throughout government.
Why stop there? I mean, let's start calling siblings, let's start calling brothers and sisters things like carbon similar people, or let's call grandparents ancestral DNA givers. I mean, at what point do we just say enough? We have this is beyond stupid. I mean, look, my politics are I want my gay married friends to protect their weed with guns. I want people left alone. But you don't have a right to infringe on somebody else's liberty. And you've got women who are going in there who have been dying and been begging and trying, as Tim Walz would say, going through the hell of infertility to become a mother. And now they're the best they are to the state of Wisconsin is an inseminated person. I mean, this is for what? How many transgender women who think they're men actually go in to get artificially inseminated?
I mean,
probably
it's
none.
Like, has it been a dozen in 10 years? I don't know.
I mean, so he's willing to take away this title for mothers. That's all the best he thinks of these women is the best he can come up with is inseminated person.
Well, you got to be inclusive,
that's
Andy.
Insulting.
You got to be inclusive. You're not inclusive,
Andy. No, I don't
Andy.
need to be inclusive. I don't need to be inclusive. I don't need to accept minor attracted people. I don't need to accept this stuff because, you know, society is with us, Jake. And,
I know,
we've
big
seen
time.
it with the silent majority. But you know what? We don't have anyone that's willing to just, other than you, Jesse, a few others that are willing to go out and just call this what it is and really go after these people because they're afraid that somehow this left-wing religious almost cult-like people are going to come after you and call you names. You know, it's to me, it's the dumbest thing in the world. And to me, I can't believe that I live in a day and age today where grown adults who are educated are changing mother to inseminated person. That is the world we live in today. We live in a world where we are saying that the state should pay for men to have breasts bolted on them because they can become a woman then. Mm-hmm. This is insane, and it's got to end. And look, this has personally affected me. I sent you the video, and I'm not going to share it here because it has minors in it. My daughter, and I'm proud to say daughter, made a one of the highest level volleyball club teams you can make. And they travel all around the Midwest, all around the area, and they play. And she had to play, and you know my daughter, Tessa, she's tiny. I mean, we celebrated when she made the growth chart in 3rd grade. She made this team as a defensive specialist in the back row. And if you know volleyball out there, that's a big deal. And she had to play against a team that had a boy pretending to be a girl who was 6'3", and he scored all of their points as an outside hitter. And if you want to talk about something demoralizing towards women, if you want to talk about a real war on women, Jake, it's changing their name to inseminated person and taking away that title of mother. And it's allowing boys who think they're girls to go in and play girl sports and crush their spirits because that's what happened.
You know, it's so interesting, Andy. We've known each other for more than 2 decades. And in college, remember Title IX became a big deal? We lost our baseball team and wrestling program. They had to equalize it with women's sports, which we were opposed to. Not that we were against women's sports, just that the fact that, you know, let the marketplace of ticket sales.
There's a reality behind it, Jake, that with what you're talking about, that is just real. I mean, if you look at supposed this gender wage gap that the women's soccer team talks
Before
about
you go
all the
on a sidetrack, you remember this was the issue 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago in college, that the Democrats were championing in Wisconsin colleges. And now they're the ones against basically Title IX protecting women's sports. Isn't that crazy?
Well, I mean, they groomed us. Jake, they groomed us. They started grooming 20 years ago for us to accept this, and you and I were smart enough not to.
But I'm saying they're not accepting of it now because
even some of the women are the ones who are pushing this. Like, you know, we talked about Peggy Flanagan, but, you know, people might have seen Janet Mills, who is the governor of Maine, who was at the White House. Trump was giving a conference, you know, speech to all of the governors across the states, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was awesome how he called out Janet Mills. He goes, you know, is the governor of Maine here? Oh, so you're going to fight us on having men and women's sports? You're not getting any federal money. And, you know, I watched the entire speech. It was actually an incredible speech. It's one of his best in the second term so far because it was to the point. It was elevated. It wasn't like he was everything was amazing about it. And to put Janet Mills in her place, she's sitting there going, you know, she's so upset about it, but she really doesn't have any kind of good comeback other than We'll see you in court.
Jesse, where are all the feminists at that fought so hard for Title IX? If your audience doesn't know about Title IX, Title IX simply said that you have to have an equal number of scholarships or close to, therefore, for women in athletics that you do men.
To supposedly
it doesn't matter what the sport is.
To supposedly protect women's sports, which now can be taken over by boys.
And so you had all these feminists and you had all these Democrats out there that were literally changing state law to ensure that women had equal access to scholarships when it came to athletics and colleges. And now they're losing them.
Right.
They're losing them to men.
Right.
And it's just got to stop.
You remember when Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner?
No, it's Bruce Jenner. It's Bruce Jenner.
Well,
yes.
I mean, he changed his name. So anyhow, won like Woman of the Year. I can't remember, was it ABC Sports or someone gave, maybe
it was an ESPY, wasn't it?
I think it was an ESPY.
Yeah.
And it's like, and this happens not just with that. Oh no, was that Time Magazine? Well, whatever. It was like Woman of the Year. It's like of all the hundreds of millions. What's that?
Finke got one too. Remember,
that's
Finke
right.
was a Minnesota Woman of the Year.
That's right. And it's like, of like the 150 plus women in America, you lose to a man. Like, it's so crazy. This is so crazy. But of course, I'm probably preaching to the choir in our audience. Maybe a leftist maneuvers onto this that has an open mind these days. I don't know. But the population is not behind. That's why Trump's taking these